Now I request Secretary General to begin the opening ceremony.
In which language do you want to take your oath?
মই মোৰ শপত অসমীয়াত গ্ৰহণ কৰিব। মই শবনম আহমেদ লোকসভাৰ সদস্য নিৰ্বাচিত হোৱাৰ ঈশ্বৰৰ নামত শপত খাই কওঁ যে বিধিৰ দ্বাৰা স্থাপনা কৰা ভাৰতৰ সংবিধানৰ প্ৰতি মই প্ৰকৃত বিশ্বাস আৰু নিষ্ঠা পোষণ কৰিম। মই ভাৰতৰ প্ৰভুত্ব আৰু অখণ্ডতা অক্ষুণ্ণ ৰাখিম আৰু মই গ্ৰহণ কৰিব ধৰা কৰ্তব্য শ্ৰদ্ধাপূৰ্বকভাৱে নিৰ্বহন কৰিম।
कुमारी पान। In which language do you want to take your oath?
मैं अपना शपथ हिंदी में लेना चाहती हूँ। मैं पारुल खानम जो लोकसभा का सदस्य निर्वाचित हुई हूँ ईश्वर की शपथ लेती हूँ कि मैं विधि द्वारा स्थापित भारत के संविधान के प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा और निष्ठा रखूंगी। मैं भारत की प्रभुता और अखंडता अक्षुण्ण रखूंगी तथा जिस पद को मैं ग्रहण करने वाली हूँ उसके कर्तव्य का श्रद्धापूर्वक निर्वहन करूंगी।
कुमारी ईशा। Which language do you want to take it?
I would like to take my oath in English. I, Irshad Iqbal Ansari, having been elected a member of the House of People, do swear in the name of God that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as per law established, that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India, and that I will faithfully discharge the duty upon which I am about to enter.
Honorable members of the House, 4-star General of the Indian Army and the first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, passed away yesterday in a helicopter crash. Now I request member of the House, Shriman Bishnoi, to express his condolences.
His passing is a great loss to our nation, as he was not only India's first Chief of Defence Staff, but also a dedicated leader who worked tirelessly to modernize and strengthen our armed forces. Today we remember his invaluable contribution and the legacy he leaves behind, inspiring us all with his courage, discipline, unwavering commitment to the country. He died on 8 December 2021 due to a helicopter crash in Kudur, Tamil Nadu. The nation has lost one of his greatest sons. His 4 decades of selfless service to the motherland was marked by exceptional gallantry and heroism. His broad rich experience of serving the army, India will never forget his exceptional service.
Now I request member of the House, Shriman Dhyan, to express his condolences.
Honorable Speaker and respected members of the Parliament. Today we are really grief-stricken hearing the news coming from Tamil Nadu that India's first Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat, his wife Madhulika Rawat and 12 other defence personnel died in a helicopter crash near Kunnur in Tamil Nadu. The Tamil Nadu police has kept the investigation pending for want of crucial evidence such as weather clearance report and data from the helicopters, flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder. Bipin Rawat was an Indian military officer who was the 4-star General of the Indian Army. He served as the first Chief of Defence Staff of the Indian Armed Forces from January 2020 until his death in the helicopter crash. Prior to taking over as the CDS, he served as the 57th Chairman of the Chief of Staff Committee of the Indian Armed Forces as well as 27th Chief of the Army Staff of the Indian Army. He was born in Pori Garhwal district in present Uttarakhand to Lieutenant General Lakshman Singh Rao. He graduated from the National Defense Academy and Indian Military Academy, where he was awarded the Sword of Honor. During his career of nearly 43 years, he was awarded multiple times for gallantry and distinguished service. He was awarded many Seva medals during the time period 2001 to 2019. He was also awarded the COAS Commendation on 2 occasions and the Army Commander's Commendation. While serving with the United Nations, he was awarded the Force Commander's Commendation twice. He was also honored with the Padma Vibhushan in 2022. He was a really good and kind-hearted citizen who served for our nation. India has definitely lost one of its heroes. Thank you.
Now I request all the members for mourning for his souls at the please. Now we shall begin question number. Question number 101 from Dhyan.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to ask the government side's finance minister the question that, as we know, in our country India, currently, health and life insurances attract an 18% GST, which to be really honest is a pretty big amount. These insurances are really important in the financial security and stability of people. Despite this, there are many poor and unemployed people in our country who can't really afford these insurances. So what is the government really trying to do with those people? What is basically the government's approach towards this issue?
Now I request Finance Minister Srimati Naina Das to answer to this question.
Honorable Speaker, I find it rich that the members of opposition are suddenly concerned about 18% GST on life and health insurance premium. I would like to ask Honorable Member of the Opposition, where were you? Where were you when we were working tirelessly to provide affordable healthcare to the poor and vulnerable through initiatives like Ayushman Bharat? Your crocodile tears won't wash away the fact that the party's own chief ministers have failed to provide adequate healthcare to their citizens. The fact remains that our government has taken concrete steps to address the issue. We are lowering the GST on life and health insurance premium to 5%. We have exempted certain insurance schemes catering to the poorer section. Exemptions include Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, Universal Health Insurance Scheme, Jan Arogya Bima Yojana, Nirmaya Health Insurance Scheme. Instead of staging protests and grandstandings, I suggest you to work with us to find better solutions. Honorable members, let's focus on serving the people, not scoring cheap political points. The nation demands better.
Question number 102 from Nibid.
Honorable Speaker and respected members of the Parliament, it's quite rare to see a 10 or 11-year-old playing outside their home these days. It's like watching a bird that has been caged for too long. For this reason, despite having the largest population, India is not performing very well in sports. People often wonder why India is not winning any gold medals in Olympics, and they feel insecure about their children's prospects in sports careers. If the next generation of athletes is not given the chance to play and compete, the country's sporting prospects may remain dim. Today, I am asking the government what major steps have been taken to establish a strong position in sports around the world. What major steps have been taken to promote the sports culture in schools? At last, people say that India can't win a gold medals in Olympics. And those people who say this, they want their child to pursue career as doctors and engineers only. And no one one can feel the pain of this better than me because I am also a victim of this mindset. Thank you.
Now I request Youth Affairs and Sports Minister Srimati Nazifa Islam to answer to this question.
Honorable Speaker, first of all, thank you, Honorable Member of the House, for finally showing your concern. First things first, that you say that children these days are like caged birds, as we do not see them playing outside. Do you come out of your house? Because every time I pass a field, there are many children playing there. They're playing various sports like cricket, basketball, football, and a lot of other sports. Second, today we are not only limited in the fields. Our parents are sending their children in different sports coaching institutes. So this is the progress we've made. Second, you say that India's number of medals in the Olympics is relatively less as the population is high. But you see, India's performance at the Olympics is not just about the number of medals. It is about the progress we've made. In 2016, we have only won 2 medals. From that, we have gone to 7 medals in 2020 and 6 medals in 2024. So this is a progress, not stagnation. Also, the number of medals does not only depend on the population. It also depends on various factors like national income per capita, exposure, and most importantly, people's mindset. As you said, you are also a victim of this. Yes, I agree. Out of 10 people, 5 people would choose to be jobless than to pursue a career in sports. Yes, but the government is working tirelessly to improve this issue. We have come up with awareness campaigns. We have various schemes like TOPS, Khelo India scheme, and a lot other. We also provide awards to the deserving athletes like the Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award, worth rupees 25 lakhs, the Arjuna Award, worth rupees 15 lakhs, and a lot other benefits. Second, you ask what the government has done to promote sports culture in schools. We have this is a very common question and very like a question whose answer you can find everywhere. But it's okay. I think you are not related with news. Let me tell you what we have done. Number 1, we have made a rule that in every school there should be at least 40 to 45 minutes physical activities or games period in all the schools. Second, again the Khelo India movement comes in handy, where we provide financial assistance to the deserving athletes. We have improved our sports infrastructure. You know, the Narendra Modi sports stadium we have built recently. And if I go on, the list is long. If I go on, it will take me at least an hour to finish all the things we've done. So you see, the government is not sitting idly like you. My suggestion is that instead of throwing questions after questions like an old man, come up with a concrete solution. Then we'll definitely see more number of medals. Thank you.
Question number 103 from Arpita.
Honorable Speaker, sir, my question to the Home Minister is, on 20th October 2024, a very large grave incident took place in a construction site in Gandhipal, Jammu and Kashmir, where 7 people were killed in a terrorist attack. Such incidents have been occurring for many years now. What is the government doing to respond to these tensions? And can we claim that these tensions are actually reducing since it came to power?
Now I request Home Minister Srimati.
Honorable Speaker, answering the question of the member of opposition, I have to say this, that it is with a heavy heart that I address the tragic incident that took place in Gandharbal, Jammu and Kashmir. Our thoughts and prayers are with the ones who are affected by this act of violence. But since the question has arisen now, that what is the government doing for the safety of the people of Jammu and Kashmir? To this, I will say that the government has made the safety of the people of Jammu and Kashmir their top priority ever since it came to power. We have intensified counter-terrorism measures. We have worked to strengthen surveillance by improving coordination among intelligence agencies and utilizing modern technologies such as drones and artificial intelligence. We have also invested heavily on socio-economic development projects to Let me point to the numbers. The number of stone melting cases reduced by 100%, civilian deaths decreased by 81%, incidents of terrorism has decreased by 69%, and killings of security personnel has decreased by 47%. We are not saying that we have eliminated all threats, but the data clearly shows a downward trend. And I will say this here, that our government is not backing down, and our security forces will continue the relentless pursuit of the ones who threaten the unity and security of our nation. They may try to strike, but we are stronger. We are resolved to secure a peaceful and prosperous Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you.
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, धन्यवाद। कहते हैं लोगों की इंसान उसके कौम से होती है, ना कि उसके धर्म से और ना ही उसके जात पात से। लेकिन अगर इसी काम को लेकर युवा में चिंता बनी रहे तो मैं ये बताना चाहूंगा कि आजकल के युवा में जो पहले जैसी सेवा करने की इच्छा थी वो नहीं है। मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि अगर कोई इंसान ये कह दे कि वो मरने से डरता नहीं, या तो वो झूठ बोल रहा है या तो वो गोरखा का सैनिक है। और वही गोरखा जो नेपाल से होते हैं, जिन्होंने हमारे हर जंग में साथ दिया है, चाहे वो कारगिल हो या 1971 का युद्ध। लेकिन वही सेना अग्निवीर योजना के चलते भर्ती होने से नकार रहे हैं और चीनी सेना में शामिल होने की ठान ले रहे हैं। अग्निवीर योजना ये कहती है कि जो इस योजना के अंतर्गत युवा को लिए जाएंगे, उनमें से 75% उसको बाहर निकल दिया जाएगा और 25% को ही बस आगे सेवा में भर्ती रहने का मौका दिया जाएगा। मैं सरकार से पूछना चाहूंगा कि क्या सरकार ने अग्निवीर योजना के संभावित नकारात्मक प्रभाव का गहरा अध्ययन दिया है? 4 साल की नौकरी, उसके बाद क्या होगा जिम्मेदारी? क्या सरकार ये सुनिश्चित कर सकती है कि 4 साल बाद इन अग्निवीरों का भविष्य सुरक्षित रहेगा, या ये योजना सिर्फ युवा को ठगने के लिए है? धन्यवाद।
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, इस सवाल का मेरा ये जवाब है कि सरकार ने अग्निवीर योजना के संभावित सकारात्मक प्रभावों का गहरा अध्ययन किया है और इसके लिए कई विशेषताएं और सुविधाएं भी प्रदान की है। लेकिन विपक्ष के सदस्यों को लगता है कि ये योजना युवाओं के भविष्य के साथ खिलवाड़ है। जी नहीं, सरकार ने ये स्पष्ट किया है कि अग्निवीर योजना युवाओं को सशक्त बनाने और देश की सुरक्षा को मजबूत करने के लिए है, न कि उसे ठगने के लिए। इस योजना के तहत अग्निवीरों को 4 साल की सेवा के बाद उनकी कौशलता के आधार पर स्थायी किया जाएगा। इसके अलावा अग्निवीरों को उनकी कौशलता के अनुरूप स्किल सर्टिफिकेट भी दिया जाएगा। इस सवाल का मेरा ये जवाब है कि सरकार ने अग्निवीर योजना के संभावित सकारात्मक प्रभावों का गहरा अध्ययन किया है और इसके लिए कई विशेषताएं और सुविधाएं भी प्रदान की है। लेकिन विपक्ष के सदस्य को लगता है कि ये योजना युवाओं के भविष्य के साथ खिलवाड़ है। जी नहीं, सरकार ने ये स्पष्ट किया है कि अग्निवीर योजना युवाओं को सशक्त बनाने और देश की सुरक्षा को मजबूत करने के लिए है, न कि उसे ठगने के लिए। इस योजना के तहत अग्निवीरों के 4 साल की सेवा के बाद उनकी कौशलता के आधार पर स्थायी किया जाएगा। इसके अलावा अग्निवीरों को उनकी कौशलता के अनुरूप स्किल सर्टिफिकेट भी दिया जाएगा, जो भविष्य में उनके लिए रोजगार के रास्ते खोलेगा। रक्षा मंत्रालय और विभिन्न राज्यों द्वारा उनकी बहाली प्रक्रिया में अग्निवीरों को तरजीह दी जाएगी, जिससे उनके भविष्य को सुरक्षित बनाने में मदद करेगा। इसके अलावा अग्निवीरों को 48 लाख रुपए का बीमा कवर भी दिया जाएगा, जो उनके भविष्य को सुरक्षित करने में मदद करेगा। अग्निवीर योजना एक सोच समझकर बनाई गई योजना है, जिसका उद्देश्य युवाओं को सशक्त बनाने और देश की सुरक्षा को मजबूत करना है। सरकार ने इसके लिए स्पष्ट नीति और योजना बनाई है, जिससे सेवा के बाद रोजगार के अवसरों में तरजीह, सेवा के दौरान स्वास्थ्य और चिकित्सा सुविधाएं। इन सुविधाओं से ये स्पष्ट है कि सरकार ने अग्निवीर योजना के संभावित सकारात्मक प्रभावों का गहरा अध्ययन किया है और इसके लिए कई सुविधाएं प्रदान की है। मैं आखिर में ये कहना चाहूंगी विपक्ष के सदस्य को कि चीजों को पहले जाने, समझे और फिर बोले, बिना जाने बातों का बदलकर ना बनाए। धन्यवाद।
Question number 105 from Nabi.
मेरा सवाल शिक्षा मंत्री से है। माननीय, जैसे हम सभी जानते हैं, भारत को आगे बढ़ने के लिए शिक्षा एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण चीज है और हम यहाँ पे आए जितने भी लोग हैं, हम सबको पता है शिक्षा सबसे ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण है। और इसी शिक्षा के चलते जो हमारे युवा हैं वो आगे जाके बड़े बड़े अधिकारी, बड़े बड़े अफसर, डॉक्टर, इंजीनियर बनेंगे। माननीय, मैं इनसे पूछना चाहता हूँ, जब से इनकी सरकार आई है, पहले तो हमारी सरकार रहते कभी नीट का एग्जाम लीक नहीं हुआ, अब इनके आते ही पेपर लीक कैसे हो सकता है? और इसके चलते एक या दो नहीं, कम से कम 1000 या 1000 से भी ज्यादा जो युवाएं हैं, जो बच्चे हैं, जो आगे जाके बड़े बड़े अफसर बनते, बड़े बड़े डॉक्टर्स बनते, उन्होंने आत्महत्या कर ली है। क्या ये खुशी की बात है? और हम देख सकते हैं कि शिक्षा में इतनी महंगाई बढ़ रही है दिन ब दिन, और जो गरीब हैं, गरीब परिवार के लोग हैं, उन बच्चों का क्या? उनकी भी तो कुछ आशाएं हैं। उनकी आशाएं क्या सिर्फ सपनों में ही रह जाएंगी? क्या वो कभी अपने सपने पूरे नहीं कर पाएंगे? मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहता हूँ, शिक्षा में बढ़ती महंगाई को आप कैसे नियंत्रित कर सकते हैं और क्या कर रहे हैं? हम ये भी देख सकते हैं कि सरकारी स्थानों के जो स्कूलें हैं उनकी हालतें बहुत खराब है और कुछ में तो शिक्षक ही नहीं है। ऐसे में उनका क्या, वो क्या करेंगे? इसमें तो उनकी कोई गलती ही नहीं है। ये तो हमारी सरकार की गलती है। आप इनको कैसे ठीक कर सकते हैं? धन्यवाद।
मेरे विपक्ष नेता ने जो प्रश्न पूछा कि शिक्षा में महंगाई बढ़, भाई कहाँ पे शिक्षा में महंगाई बढ़ रहा है? शिक्षा में आप एक भी एग्जाम्पल नहीं दिखा सकते जहाँ पे शिक्षा में महंगाई बढ़ रहा है। और आप बोल रहे हैं कि हमारे सरकारी स्कूल एकदम घटिया क्वालिटी का है। आप कहाँ से डाटा उठाते हैं? आप क्या 1998 में बसा हुआ है या फिर 2024 का 21st सेंचुरी में बसा हुआ है? आप पहले ये क्लियर करें। मैं आपको सवाल का जवाब देता हूँ। आप जब बोला कि शिक्षा में महंगाई बढ़ रहा है, हमारे सरकारी स्कूल में एक भी फीस देने का जरूरत नहीं है। आप अगर कोई भी सरकारी स्कूल में फीस देने का जरूरत हो तो आप मुझे दिखा दीजिए कि कौन सी स्कूल में फीस देना पड़ता है। आप दिखा नहीं पाएंगे। आप बोल रहे हैं कि नीट एग्जाम में घोटाला हो रहा है। अरे भाई, नाटा का तो प्रपोजल आप लोगों ने ही दिया था, तो हम क्या करें? हमने तो सिर्फ वो इम्पोज किया है। और आपने बोला कि नीट एग्जाम का घोटाला, हमारा सरकार आने के बाद घोटाला परीक्षा का जो पेपर है वो लीक होता है। आपका सरकार जब था, पेपर का लीक का लिस्ट का दिखाऊंगा तो ये घर फिलअप हो जाएगा, कभी खत्म नहीं होगा। लेकिन आप एक भी पेपर लीक का प्रूफ दिखा नहीं पाएंगे कि हमारे सरकार आने के बाद एक भी पेपर लीक हुआ है। आप बोल रहे हैं कि हमारे सरकारी स्कूल में शिक्षक नहीं है। आप कोई एक विद्यालय दिखाइए जहाँ पे शिक्षक नहीं है। हर एक विद्यालय में जरूरत से ज्यादा शिक्षक है। कोई भी विद्यालय ऐसे नहीं है जहाँ पे शिक्षा के अभाव पे बच्चे लोगों को ऐसे ही बैठे रहना पड़ता है। अभी तो हम 21st सेंचुरी का स्कूल स्किल भी बना रहे हैं, जिसके तहत AI टीचर पे आएगा, जिसके बदौलत अगर कोई टीचर बीमार पड़ता है तो उस क्लास का खत्म नहीं होगा, उसमें AI टीचर आके पढ़ाएगा। और अभी हमारा दीक्षा पोर्टल है जहाँ पे आप जाके क्लास 1 से लेकर क्लास 12 का हर एक सब्जेक्ट का डिटेल एक्सप्लेनेशन मिलेगा। वहाँ पे आपको हर चीज मिलेगा। अभी आप बोलेंगे कि गांव ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में इंटरनेट कहाँ पे मिलेगा, तो उसके लिए हमने शुरुआत किया है PM वाणी स्कीम, जिसके तहत भारत Gbps स्पीड, ये कोई मामूली स्पीड है क्या? हम आगे और भी प्लान कर रहे हैं कि ये और भी कैसे बढ़ाया जाए। अब लद्दाख में जाइए या अरुणाचल प्रदेश में जाइए या फिर आप अंडमान निकोबार पे जाइए या लक्षद्वीप पे जाइए, आपको इंटरनेट स्पीड 1 Gbps तक ही मिलेगा। आप लोग बोल रहे हैं कि बच्चे लोगों का ड्रीम सपना कैसे पूरा करेगा? अरे भाई, हम सर बच्चे लोगों का सपना का कोई खिलवाड़ नहीं कर रहे। हम बच्चे लोगों का सपना का फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी दे रहे। हम बच्चे लोगों को सपना का फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट कैसे पूरा कर सकते वो सोच रहे हैं। उसके लिए हमने IIT कानपुर के साथ कोलैबोरेशन करके साथी बोल के एक वेब प्लेटफॉर्म बनाए हैं, जिसमें हर एक बच्चा एनरोल करने के बाद वहाँ पे IIT के प्रोफेसर लोग बताएंगे कैसे नीट एग्जाम में अच्छे तरीके से स्किल दे सकते हैं। नीट एग्जाम का पूरा कोर्स वहाँ पे 0 कॉस्ट में मिलेगा। आपको CUET देना है, आपको JEE देना है, हर क्वेश्चन का आंसर वहाँ पे मिल जाएगा। वहाँ पे हम और भी नए चीज ऐड कर रहे हैं। वहाँ पे हम मॉक टेस्ट के लिए ऐड कर रहे हैं। जो मॉक टेस्ट देगा, बच्चे अपने स्टेटस जान सकता है कि वो कितना अच्छा है। आप लोग बोल रहे हैं सरकारी स्कूल बहुत बेकार है, घटिया है। जितना भी सरकारी स्कूल तो ऐसे ही बहुत बेहतर है। और बेहतर बनाने के लिए हमने शुरुआत किया है PM श्री स्कीम, जिसके तहत हम हर एक 21st सेंचुरी स्किल वहाँ पे ऐड कर रहे हैं जो बच्चे के लिए जरूरत है। PM श्री स्कूल को हम करोड़ों रुपया दे रहे हैं कि अपना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और बेहतर कीजिए, अमेरिका यूरोप के देशों से भी बेहतर कीजिए। हमने शुरुआत किया है PM इंटर्नशिप का स्कीम। आप बोलेंगे आप लोगों का सवाल ही होगा कि बच्चे लोग पढ़ेंगे लिखेंगे तो वह लोगों को नौकरी या फिर बिजनेस कैसे करेंगे? तो उन लोगों ने शुरुआत किया है PM इंटर्नशिप स्कीम, जिसके तहत PM इंटर्नशिप स्कीम के तहत भारत की हर एक युवा को हम वहाँ पे इनरोल करेंगे। विदेशी अगर भारतीय कंपनियों में उन लोगों का इंटर्नशिप करेंगे। वो लोग बड़े कंपनी में नौकरी तो करेंगे ही, उसके बाद भारत में बिजनेस एम्पायर खड़ा करेंगे। हम आखिरी में बताना चाहते हैं कि भारत के बच्चे का क्रिएटिविटी लॉस नहीं होना चाहिए, इसलिए हम लोगों ने शुरुआत किया है अटल टिंकरिंग लैब। भारत की हर एक स्कूल, आप एक भी स्कूल नहीं दिखा सकते जहाँ पे अटल टिंकरिंग लैब नहीं है। भारत की कोने का स्कूल में अटल टिंकरिंग लैब है, जिसमें बच्चे लोग अपना इनोवेशन, अपना क्रिएटिविटी दिखा सकते हैं, जिसके तहत वो भारत का ही नहीं दुनिया का बेहतरीन साइंटिस्ट या वैज्ञानिक बन सकता है। तो हम बोलेंगे कि आप कृपया भारत की किसी भी स्कूल में जाइए, वहाँ पे देखिए, उसके बाद अपना सोच पूरा दोहराइए तो आपका सोच बिल्कुल चेंज होगा। आप बोलेंगे कि ऐसा स्कूल यूरोप में भी नहीं मिलेगा, ऐसा स्कूल अमेरिका में नहीं मिलेगा, ऐसा स्कूल सिर्फ भारत में ही मिलेगा। तो आप नेगेटिव सोच छोड़ दीजिए, भारत की जनता को अच्छे सोच दीजिए। भारत की जनता जानता है कि किसका सरकार काम करता है और किसका सरकार काम नहीं करता है। धन्यवाद।
I would like to ask Ministry of Health about its failure in doing its duties. Despite initiatives like the National Health Mission challenges, such as inadequate healthcare infrastructure, a shortage of medical personnel, and uneven resource distribution, particularly in rural and underserved areas, persist. Could you explain why this issue remains unresolved and what steps the government is taking to improve healthcare access in these regions? What measures are being implemented to strengthen primary healthcare infrastructure and equitable distribution of resources across the country? Additionally, what accountability mechanisms are in place to ensure efficient use of funds and the systemic problems like corruption, management, and delays in service delivery?
The opposition has alleged the health ministry's failure in executing its duties, to which I I would like to answer that it might have been true if it were your government. People believed in us and we provided our duties. We provided the things that they required and we provided adequate healthcare to one and every citizen of our country. India has been consistent in terms of development in healthcare system and its peripheral units and the units that we provide the healthcare systems to all the people of our country. I will try to describe everything calmly and clearly. All programs for health facilities are run under the National Health Mission as described by our opposition. The National Health Mission is not inadequate for the first. The National Health Mission has been the resurrection of the previously NRHM, National Rural Health Mission, which was quite a disaster that we have made, and we have made it so that it was useful for our people at last. All the programs under the National Health Mission are very fast. There are a total of 39 initiatives or schemes that are uploaded under the National Health Mission. I would like to name a few of them as you might know them. Number one is the Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram, as previously mentioned. The Rashtra Bal Swasthya Karyakram, Integrated Disease Surveillance Program. The third program that I mentioned is for the prevention of communicable and non-communicable diseases. And the most beneficial and well known in the whole world, not in India, I repeat, in the whole world, are the National Program for the Healthcare of the Elderly. That is targeted for the elderly people of our country or the retired persons. The second one is the PM-JAY Yojana, or the Pradhan Mantri Jan Ayog Yojana, which is one of the most famous programs in our country. And it is for citizens above 70 years. The third one, and the one that you people are maybe familiar with, is the Ayushman Bharat program for achieving universal healthcare. Not only this, but as I mentioned, 39 other initiatives are taken to ensure better healthcare everywhere in the country. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we have provided good routes via transportation via the highways, as national highways and state highways, and we have provided 24/7 ambulance services to transport the patients efficiently. Apart from this, the opposition also managed to question insurance schemes as well as underdeveloped rural areas. Then they must not know the PM-JAY Yojana that I mentioned. And the Ayushman Bharat Yojana provides 5 lakhs of healthcare yearly for people in need, for people in terminal illnesses or people with dangerous diseases. There is also the famous central government health scheme. So, as many of us may basically know, apart from the opposition, of course, that because they managed to question this, the central health scheme or the central government health scheme provides the insurance for people working under the central government as well as their family. And all these schemes are also applicable to rural areas, as our very intelligent opposition members have questioned rural development. The rural development, apart from getting these 39 initiatives, also gets some secondary benefits. This includes the community healthcare centers, or the CHCs, which are maintained under MNP and BMS. These programs makes it mandatory so that all the CHC or community health center managed by none other than workers of own communities or villages. They also include a minimum of 1 physician, 1 gynecologist, 1 pediatrician and a surgeon. As I mentioned, minimum. The maximum is 7. And the average number of these professionals in the CHCs are 4. So that's more than enough for community health center. They also get a team of 21 trained professional paramedical staff, those that you might see in emergency situations. They also get personal ambulances as well as supplies like oxygen masks and cylinders. Opposition has also doubts regarding the infrastructure, which is very shocking. And this makes us believe that opposition members always stay in their high-rises and bungalows and never go out to touch the grass. I am saying this because there are many different buildings as well as infrastructure development in every single state, every single district, if I might add. as you might notice, there are many cancer hospitals in different districts of our country. There are many state hospitals and there are national level hospitals as well. The state hospitals also include medical colleges, as well as district also includes medical colleges, where the students the students have the training as well as managing patients. And with the help of these services, as well as the initiative that the opposition couldn't dare to take because they couldn't figure out how to develop our country properly. This initiative has raised our global healthcare index from 111 to 66. And this data is for 2021. This means that our healthcare index is still decreasing. It is going up. So with all this data that our opposition members will find very hard to interpret, and most probably they will misinterpret this too. This data shows that our healthcare index is decreasing. That means our healthcare system is getting better by every passing day. And there is development everywhere in the country, even on rural areas as well as backserved areas as proposed by our opposition members. And these areas get the adequate health care that these opposition members alleged that they don't care, which is additional help from supplementary as well as peripheral units of health care. And if the opposition still manages to misinterpret these regulations with quote-unquote corruption, then there are some special issues actually, specific issues within our parliament itself. And I would like to request my dear opposition members to stay up to date to get the latest news and not just get topics to snatch around the development of our country. If you don't know how to help, then please do not obstruct our way to development. And we have been doing our best and will continue to do our best, whether with your help or without your help. And with this, I want to conclude.
External Minister there. India-China relations has worsened in recent years, primarily due to unresolved border dispute, notably along the line of actual control. Tension increases rapidly in 2020 after violent crashes in Galwan Valley, deepening mistrust. In addition to security concern, economic rivalry and strategic competition in the Indo-Pacific has strained ties. While trade persists, India is recalibrating its diplomatic, military and economic strategy in response to growing China's influence. So my question is, what is the Indian government doing to address this situation?
I would like to tell the opposition that, as you know, China has been constantly pressurizing us around and out of borders. As the fifth largest economy in the world, it is our responsibility to tell them that there are consequences to their action. Unlike in 1962, when your government gave away 38,000 square kilometers of Akshait's territory to China because you were not prepared for a high altitude war with China. Your government failed to protect our land because you didn't invest in military resources. But now, we have invested 5 times more resources annually in our militaries than you did a decade ago. Now, both the nations have decided to disengage and are ready for coordinated patrolling. After completion of disengagement, both militaries will fall back to position held before April 2022. This was the first step. The next step will be de-escalation. We will start with de-escalation once we know that we can trust China.
Question number 108 from Iman Mishra.
To the Honorable Speaker, sir, my question today is on the bad condition of highways in India. The bad condition of some highways in India is very inconvenient of having big potholes and debris on these. These highways connect long distance places, so national highways are always busy. If the condition is not convenient, then accidents occur frequently. For example, National Highway 31, which passes through the Barpeta district of Assam, is not free from drawbacks, such as there are a large number of potholes, cracks, and debris in the road, and some parts having no finishing and ultimately broken away. These cause accidents. What are the steps taken by the government to improve the poor conditions of the national highways in India?
We have taken many steps to improve the condition of highway network, including road network expansion. The Bharatmala Rail program has constructed and provided roads for various purposes, including expressway, border connectivity roads, and coastal connectivity roads. Road safety. We have launched road safety awareness campaigns and deployed emergency response team and landslide areas. National Highway Authority of India (NHAI) has also taken up the toll operator transport (TOT) model for asset recycling on 100 highways. The NHAI has also introduced the Rajmarg Yatra app to improve the user experience. Maintenance and upgrade. The scheme called NHO that focuses on upgrading and maintaining existing national highway NHO 1 project involved in maintenance and minor upgrade, while NHO 2 project involved more extensive upgrades. New technology has enlisted a constituent to advise on adopting new technologies like GNSS for barrier-free maintenance and repair. Funds for the maintenance and repair of national highways. Special projects has approved special for developing roads in regions like the northeastern region.
The House. Now we shall begin the main introduction period. Now I request Minister of Health, Shriman Prince Abraham Ahuja, to introduce the bill.
Honorable Speaker, sir, and my dear fellow members of Parliament, today I am here to propose a very revolutionary bill, that is the Jeevan Rekha scheme. This scheme will allow us to have a better overall healthcare system that will be a companion as well as a complement to our already developing healthcare system. This scheme allows us to get 83% of subsidy to people for insurance, health insurance, for the people of lower middle class and poverty stricken people, or the people below the poverty line. This scheme will, if implemented, will deduct an additional 5% tax from corporate companies, which earns more than 7 crore per annum. This will help us to introduce the Jeevan Rekha schemes to people in need. As we all know, India is a very vast country with a population of about 144 crore people, which is the largest in the world. And still with this population, with the extensive amount of health insurance schemes, with all the options available, only 37% of people Only 37% of the people have a health insurance, which is a shame, to be honest. And this 37% people include those of the upper middle class and the upper class people, with income starting from 25 lakh to more than 10 crore per annum. As we all know, 80 crore people needs our help. Those people needs the ever increasing health demands, and they need to fulfill their terminal diseases demands. As we know that the diseases which many people suffer from, and one of these are diabetes, requires a lot of medications, as well as a lot of visits to hospitals and a lot of healthcare facilities. This Jeevan Rekha scheme will help us to increase the lifespan of our people. This will decline the infant mortality rate, and this will reduce the number of people dying from terminal illness. As we may know, about 13 lakh people die. 13 lakh people get sick and die every year because of lack of health insurance and lack of medical coverage. This scheme will allow us to meet the demand for the remaining 63% of the people of our country. And the 5% tax deduction would not really matter of prices of our goods, essential goods, as the companies that we're going to deduct the tax from are already earning more than enough to adjust and alleviate their products' prices. So I would request all of you to cooperate with the bill so that it can do some good to the people of our country. Thank you.
Now I request member of opposition to present his
I
speech.
commend the government commitment to supporting healthcare for people below poverty line through the Jeevan Rekha Health Program. I am here to argue about a 5% increase in corporate tax to fund this initiative, which may not be the most effective or sustainable approach. Increasing corporate tax by 5% could discourage investment, limited job creation, especially small and medium enterprises which are backbone of our economy. A sudden rise in corporate tax could make India less attractive to foreign investors who might have been thinking to shift operations to countries with lower taxes. Instead of rising corporate tax, the government could consider relocating funds from existing budgets, especially by reducing non-essential expenditures. In conclusion, the need for the healthcare for those below the poverty line is undeniable. But I urge the youth parliament to consider alternate means of funding Jeevan Rekha that support both social welfare and economic growth, ensuring a brighter future for all citizens. Thank you.
Honorable members of the House, now we shall begin the bill voting period. Members who are in favor of the bill, please say yes. Members who are not in favor of the bill, please say no. As the members who are in favor of the bill are more than the members who are not in favor, the bill is passed.